What do you want from the guy? You can't want to put a gun to people's heads? I mean, they just put out there, his team a few weeks ago on Boxing Scene, that they were ready to negotiate with Team Gervonta Davis. Where's the fight, bro? Like, you want to not respect this guy. Oh, he doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. Everybody around him doesn't have it. Nobody wants to fight anymore in boxing.
Lovers of the sweet science, it is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus, and don't forget to download the app for the full ProBox TV experience. Well, it's always more fun and much more insightful when we got the champions in the house. We got Chris Algieri and we got Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, as Shakur Stevenson starts the second act of his career, post Top Rank, and with that two-fight deal with Matchroom / Riyadh season, talk is starting to come out comparing Shakur Stevenson to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, is it the skill level, Olympic medals, or signing with Top Rank? Don't know, but a great article by Eric Raskin on BoxingScene.com where he writes, quote, Stevenson doesn't have the charisma, the gimmick, the nickname, the smile, all the elements that are make or break in professional wrestling that Mayweather harnessed to further his boxing earning power. All right, Paulie, are there unfair parallels in the comparisons between Shakur and Floyd, and how does Stevenson maximize his potential and skills commercially?
Anytime you are compared to a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who is the fighter of his era, the fighter of his generation, and one of the all-time greats, it's obviously big shoes to fill. You know, it's not an easy place to step into, but it's also the kind of pressure you kind of want, right? Because, you know, if you're being compared to a guy like that, greatness is expected of you. The writers are going to complain here, and I can see this coming because I don't know. And I respect the writers in some way. You know, they do a lot of jobs. Without them, you wouldn't have the curiosities and the news out there and people, you know, people being into the fights and all that other stuff. I get it. I get all that too. But man, some of these guys, I don't know if they do it on purpose or if they're actually this ignorant. I don't know. But I remember watching Mayweather, and there was a lot of complaints about Mayweather until he fought Oscar De La Hoya. And I thought he was a phenomenal fighter then myself, but he still wasn't getting a lot of the credit he may have deserved. People were complaining about the Castillo fight, even after the Corrales domination, where the fact that that fight even got made was amazing, though, because back then fights could get made much faster. At that point, you know, you didn't have to wait for so long. You always did to some degree, but not you didn't have to wait for them as long as you do now. And still, Mayweather, until he got the De La Hoya victory, really never really crossed over into that phenomenal situation where people started giving him his just due and respect in a lot of the ways he probably and definitely actually had merited it before. Shakur Stevenson has got the same issue, you know what I mean? Where he's so good that people are really not able to respect his gangster, so to speak. Yeah, he's not as explosive. I get it. He's still phenomenally effective. Was Mayweather more entertaining at 130 pounds? Possibly, but even then, at 135, you know, the way he had to beat Castillo and the way he had to start being a little bit more careful as he went up the weight classes, you know, it got a little tougher for him to be as exciting because he had to concentrate on being effective as opposed to exciting. Remember that Mayweather turned pro at 130, Shakur turned pro at 126, which means this is his third weight class. By the time Mayweather got to 140, he was already fighting less exciting and fighting more to be effective. Okay, so let's parallel the two things. The only difference we have here is that Mayweather was able to get your Corrales of the world, your Castillos of the world, who actually weren't looked at as dangerous at that time. Castillo had upset Stevie Johnson, so it wasn't realized how dangerous Castillo actually was. But he'd gotten the Corrales, he'd gotten the Castillos. Shakur can't get these guys, but nobody wants to fight this guy. What do you want from the guy? You can't want to put a gun to people's heads? I mean, they just put out there, his team a few weeks ago on Boxing Scene, that they were ready to negotiate with Team Gervonta Davis. Where's the fight, bro? Like, you want to not respect this guy. Oh, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. Everybody around him doesn't have it. Nobody wants to fight anymore in boxing.
Yeah, Champ, I agree on a lot of those points. I mean, listen, this is nothing new. People have been comparing Mayweather and Shakur for some time. I don't think it's undue or unjust. You know, when you look at the skill set, you look at the Olympic, you look at the amateur pedigree, and I don't know what Raskin's talking about. I think the kid has a great smile. He flashes that smile all the time, just like Mayweather did as well. And he is amicable in that way. But in terms of where he's at in his career, I think it's too early to try and compare where they're at. Like, just like you said, Champ, Mayweather wasn't getting his respect until the De La Hoya fight. He wasn't getting the money until the Gotti fight. The The Gotti fight was when he was a breakout marketability and had, he became the heel. Everyone loved Gotti. He was a darling. And Gotti made a lot of money. That was a huge fight. I remember them fighting at AC. I remember having a fight party, everybody watching that. And people, because of the allure of Arturo Gotti, because he was so likable, people were like, man, I think Gotti's got a chance. Gotti had no chance in that fight. And Floyd went out there and got the rare, explosive, dominant win that he really needed with a lot of eyes on him. So I think Shakur is more of a victim of circumstance, a victim of the current crop of fighters that, as you said, don't want to fight, and the current crop of promoters who aren't willing to take risks. You talk about that Corrales fight. The fact that that was made when it was made is incredible in 2024. To think about that fight being made is essentially that is Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson right now. You had Diego Corrales, undefeated, dominant world champion, knocking out former world champions. He was a killer. He was a bad, bad man. Then you had Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, also undefeated, champion. This is a great matchup. Let's see what happens. Floyd completely dominates. Once again, takes advantage of the eyes that are on him at the right time. A lot of it is circumstance with Floyd. A lot of it is circumstance with Shakur. But I think the biggest issue is that we're not making the fights anymore. James Lysal Tony did this great interview recently, and he essentially used a lot of expletives and talking about what the fighters are like now, because nobody fights each other. And he said his era was way better, way tougher, because the guys actually fought, and they fought each other.
It was James being James. It was James being James.
Yeah, exactly. If you know James Tony, which anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure they do, and if you don't, go look up that interview. And he said it. He was talking the way that he talks, like you said, James being James, but he put it out there for real. So yeah, back in my day, guys fought, so my era was better. Now, so we have an era where these guys aren't fighting as often, whether it be the fighters themselves, the promotions, crossing the street, whatever. Doesn't matter. Shakur is a victim of the era and the circumstance. And in terms of him being compared to Mayweather, listen, it's a positive for him. I think it's warranted, but he still has a lot more to do. He's very early in his career. He's only 27. Only 27, guys. So he's got some more time to make these big fights possible if they ever come to fruition. And if they do, that comparison probably won't seem that crazy.
Well, one fighter that is going to step into the ring against Stevenson is Joe Cordina. Stevenson putting that WBC lightweight title on the line on that Better BF Bivol undercard October 12th. That should be an interesting fight, and we'll see if Stevenson can continue his path or continue on greatness in his boxing history. We will document all of it here on Top Stories. And don't forget to scan the QR code and download the app where apps are available. Boxing Scenes, Top Stories, and we leave you with this exciting trailer of the upcoming pay-per-view fight between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga.
He's the pride of Guadalajara, the Mexican maestro, the unified super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez. His challenger, undefeated knockout artist and pride of Puerto Rico, Edgar Berlanga. It's prime time!
Canelo versus Berlanga, plus Lara versus Garcia. Saturday, September 14th, live on PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.